You think you know the story of the sword in the stone. Whoever pulls the sword from the stone is the true ruler of Britain. But this isn't how the story began, as our object today shows. The earliest known version of the tale of King Arthur and the sword in the stone was written around the early 13th century by a French knight, Robert de Boron. But where did Robert get this idea from? It isn't found in any of the earlier surviving Arthur stories. Instead, we find the earliest sword in stone in beautiful Montesiepi in Tuscany, Italy. It's even older than Robert's Arthur stories, dating back to the late 12th century, when an Italian nobleman, Galgano Guidotti, lived near Mount Siepi. Galgano was a ruthless knight who grew wealthy on his successes. But that all changed when he went out riding and lost control of his horse, finding himself stranded at the summit of the hill. Here he had a vision of the Archangel Michael, who told him to abandon his sinful ways and give up his worldly possessions. Galgano protested. Surely, he said, this would be as difficult as casting his sword into the rock on which he stood. But when Galgano went to imitate this motion, he found his sword slid easily into the rock. On waking, Galgano was moved to imitate this action, casting his sword into the rock and changing his ways to live as a Christian hermit. When he died, the church made him a saint, and the Rotonda de Montesiepi was built above the rock, where his sword still stands, its hilt imitating the shape of Christ's cross. Galgano's insertion of his sword into a stone recommended by God seems contrary. He renounced his wealth in our world to achieve heavenly riches. His sword, bringer of death, becomes a symbol of peace, and in giving up the sword, a traditional symbol of his masculinity, Galgano renounced his temporal power. This story comes to us from medieval accounts of Galgano's life, which were translated and retold throughout Western Europe. We don't have to believe the miraculous story to be true, to admire the medieval craftsmanship of this relic, or to be impressed by the survival of both the sword and its narrative tradition. The sword itself has been tested by archaeologists, who confirmed that it dates from the 12th century, and that there is a full sword within the rock. There's no known link between Galgano's sword and King Arthur, and we can't be certain whether Robert knew of St. Galgano when he came to write the Arthur story, though we can infer that he had encountered this narrative. In both versions, the sword in stone is a miraculous sign, conferring sainthood or kingship. Unlike Arthur's sword, however, Galgano's remains as a material witness to his life, and waits for pilgrims to return in our post-COVID future.